For the first Sunday of the new year, you've found the Georgia Gang. And topping our agenda today, the nation's eyes are on Atlanta, and kickoff is just a day away. At City Hall, black girl magic prevails, and Atlanta loses one of its true visionaries. One of the stories up for grabs on the Georgia Gang.
From the Fox 5 studios, the Georgia Gang starts now.
And we're glad you could be with us on this first day of 2018. It's an unusual weekend. We said last week we were the very apex of college football in the United States. Never more true now that the Georgia Bulldogs, congratulations, Phil,
yes,
have made the national title game tonight, tomorrow night. And the city, despite cold weather, despite bombogenesis and all that, the city is awash with college football fans, and it's just terrific. Friday was Red and Black Friday, proclaimed by the governor.
That's right.
And
he wants everybody to go home early on Monday to get out of the traffic and get out of the way of the game.
I wonder how many people even bother to go to work, especially downtown on Monday.
It would be a good day to take off.
But it is, it is just amazing. And Theron, I'm going to turn to you on this. The kinds of things that take so long to happen. You know, we take it for granted, but if you're another city, if you're Kansas City, if you're Baltimore, if you're whatever, you look at Atlanta and say, how'd they do that? How did we get a stadium like that? How did we get the area where all these wonderful events are taking place? Because we already had a World Congress Center, huh?
Absolutely, and I think Atlanta is one of the few places in the country where you have a mayor of the capital city who has a working relationship with the governor and the business community.
Yep.
And so, you know, at a time when we got the college football championship a year ago, it was announced, many of us who are big Georgia fans wanted Georgia to play. But the thing that's going to be so unique is that this recent victory by the Dogs, and I'm so happy for them, is really uniting the city. But at a time where we've got to make sure that we're prepared, I was very happy to see Mayor Bottoms and the police chief, Erica Shields, come out and really warn people and say, hey, use transit. Let's not, you know, use the amount of time that we usually take to go to the games, because many of us who go to the Georgia games, you get there early to tailgate. So I just think that it's phenomenal for the city. It's definitely going to bring a lot of money here this weekend. Yeah,
the numbers are fascinating. And Phil, there are a few people who are not happy, I think. They would be Georgia Tech fans. I think they were very envious of you and your Georgia Bulldogs successes.
That's right. That's right.
But otherwise, I think everybody is a Georgia fan for at least this weekend.
At least.
Well, I would hope so. And you know, it's great to have two Southern teams, two SEC teams doing it.
Unless you're from Oregon, yeah.
That's right. And I think it's great that President Trump is coming into town, and I think that adds a lot more excitement to it, and that it draws more.
Too,
well, you know what? We have traffic anyway, and we've had presidents come and go. We can handle that.
Well, and as I don't know if Dick said it earlier, but both the mayor and the governor both held a press conference to say that they want to close down the government public offices at 2:30 on Monday to get people a chance to get out of the way of the traffic. And
some would say, who'd notice the difference?
Now, Phil, I got an email right before we taped that President Trump may actually be doing a special signing of the new book from Michael Wolff, Fiery and Fury, Steve Bannon. Did you get that same email that he's going to, while he's here clogging up traffic,
by the way,
that he's going to...
Welcome to the left-wing chair of the gang. I knew you'd get in some shot. You always do against President Trump. And you know, we all, except for you, have a journalism background. And I tell you what, and you will have to agree with me. I do some media training, and you do messaging a lot, Theron, and all of you know what I'm going to say. You know, if you don't say off the record to a journalist, it's on the record.
It's on the record.
And if you don't know a journalist, I would assume everything's on the record.
Right.
And so I think that that's one of the big problems of this author is, you know, he's just letting people babble and chatter.
But as a journalist,
that's the problem with this president. He doesn't know.
We're off track here. I have one question for you, Theron. I thought about this the other day. You're from Athens.
I am.
Yeah, but you went to Clark Atlanta University.
Correct.
Do you have any regrets about not becoming a Georgia Bulldog?
Not at all, because growing up in Athens, I mean, I remember meeting Herschel Walker at the age of 2. And I remember seeing Garrison Hurst and Terrell Davis at the Kroger on College Station Road. And I used to go to the games with my grandfather, and I used to sell Cokes at the UGA Stadium. So
not Dr. Pepper?
No, Coca-Cola. So don't have any regrets, but definitely my mom still lives in Athens. The majority of my family's still there. So I definitely bleed red and black.
All right.
All right, great.
Woof, 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 right? Well, let's
There you
change
go.
the subject. It's just, I know we're not supposed to be the sports department. We're supposed to talk about big issues, but this is just about the coolest thing I can remember. If the Falcons were able to deliver Saturday,
Yeah.
good Lord, what could we have? And we couldn't. It just doesn't get any better than this. So let's talk about the swearing in of Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms as the 60th mayor. I was a little bit disappointed in her speech. I thought she could have struck some broader themes. Kasim Reed always pushed big issues, and before that, Shirley Franklin, and so on. And I almost found I hate to say this, kind of a light, frivolous tone to her remarks. I mean, that whole business about black girl magic, white folks don't get that. Doesn't bother you.
No, it doesn't bother me.
But it wonders me who's being excluded here.
Well, I think she also emphasized Atlanta magic. That was her bigger theme, that she was saying that only in Atlanta could somebody like herself be elected mayor. She was marveling at how much progress the city has made over time. So I think that was the focus and the thrust of her efforts. And then she also talked about affordable housing, which is a real important part of her campaign, talking about the income inequality that exists in the city and how people are being priced out of their neighborhoods because of the regentrification. So I think that was a really major theme
I don't
of
think
hers.
affordable housing, Phil, should top anyone's list.
Well, I was surprised. You don't make that your number one priority. It's an issue, yes, but come on. And if I was the mayor, I think there are issues that she talked about uniting Atlanta. Affordable housing certainly isn't going to unite Atlanta. I know the Atlanta Apartment Association isn't thrilled about being forced to have some affordable housing if you're a private developer. But what about an airport that was closed a couple of weeks ago because of a huge power outage? I'd like to know what the city is doing. They have authority over the airport. That would be a priority for I don't care what your politics are. That would be one. Number two, transportation. We've all talked about transportation. I didn't hear specific. I was disappointed. I mean, I wish her well. I want to praise her for winning, obviously, but where were these better priorities?
Yeah, I think the thing we got to do is, first of all, we can't rush to judgment here. And let's give her a chance. She's only been in office for 2 to 3 days. But one of the things that we also got to really make sure that we don't miss is where she actually did the inaugural. She did it at the MLK Chapel on Morehouse College campus. And we all praise Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And we know that he's the person that first started talking about racial cooperation. And one of the things that, Phil, you did mention is that she made a very bold ask to the public to say, listen, this campaign was very divisive. We are a city that was divided. She called for unity. She called on people to work together. And the point that we can't really miss is that she did it in a place, MLK Chapel, where I think it really showed a testament to her integrity and courage to say to this predominantly African-American crowd, we've got to go north. We've got to work with some of our brothers and sisters in the city of Atlanta. And so
I just don't think it works symbolically there.
No, but I think that to Alexis' point is that it's Atlanta magic. And in this black girl magic, I fully embrace it. Listen, 2017 was the year of the woman. Women voters put so many people, Republicans and Democrats, in office. And I think that you've got to embrace this movement. We had 2 women who finished in the top 2 positions for the seat of the mayor. So that's
3 women.
Yeah, 3 women. Yeah. But I'm saying the 2
yeah.
that actually went to the runoff. So this black girl magic, don't forget the magic part, because it is magical what's happening in this country and how African American women and white women, and she talked about Atlanta magic, are working together. So I think to come on the show and say that she lacked substance and that she was only talking to black people is just not a true characterization of her speech.
We got to get
We're
out.
talking about her priorities, and
We gotta get out,
I
Phil.
think you would have to agree. I know you don't want to criticize your mayor, but I think you'd have to agree the priorities were wrong.
She was right on one thing. She singled out corruption.
She did.
She called that right
and
out.
She said her number one issue, which you come on the show and talk about, Phil, was going to fight crime and increase more police officers
Good.
to have a public
Good.
safety
Let's
plan.
see what happens.
Yeah.
Right, we got to get out. When we come back, cold reality, though, intruded on City Hall, even as she was sworn in. Stay with us.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Visit their website at fox5atlanta.com.
The day after the swearing in of Keisha Lance Bottoms, the City Pension Board, or at least the General Employees Pension Board, met at City Hall. It was contentious. 2 of the 3 city pension boards are suing both Mayor Kasim Reed, the former mayor, and Mayor KLB, Keisha Lance Bottoms. That's how I'm going to try to keep it straight, if you all forgive me. And it's an amazing lawsuit. I've read it, and it looks like what the city has done in trying to combine the 3 city boards is in clear violation of state law.
I don't think it's so clear.
Well, there's certainly citations.
And they're saying, the city is also saying that these boards don't have standing. They're not even official bodies themselves.
Well, they say they don't have standing to sue.
Right.
But I think the issue here is there's $3 billion. Efficiency is the general word that's bruited about. But really, you have to wonder why they're doing it. The pension boards are functioning well, and this is a lawsuit we'll keep an eye on.
Well, it's also, the bigger picture is the mayor wanted to have more power over these boards, and I like the fact that the actual people, whether they're police or fire, actually have representatives on the board. That's being diminished.
No, but I think, but the point I want to make here is that a couple things. One, this was voted on 10-4 by the city council, so this was just not something that Mayor
But it was rushed. They
wanted to do.
really,
number one.
There were no fiscal estimates.
But here we go. But number two, this is something that has received a lot of support from the business community, and the overall goal here is to prevent long-term solvency to this pension fund. And let's keep in mind,
their performance is quite good there.
Yeah, but
if they're all put together in one pot, it's a bigger pot.
It's a bigger pot. So we're talking about growing.
It's a bigger pot to control.
A bigger pot to control and slice and dice.
But Phil wants you to think that it's this mass sort of takeover for power. It's not that at all. And then also, Mayor Bottoms will have an opportunity to work with this new council to appoint the members to this new board. So I think ultimately you're going to see a very strong push from the city.
The mayor has more power now with this proposal.
You
won't admit that, but it's true.
Out. But you know, really, when you pick your headlines for a broadcast like this, you have to give it some thought. And here we are, about 8 or 9 minutes in, and we're going to talk about what is the biggest story facing the state of Georgia, because tomorrow, before the U.S. Supreme Court, finally, the water wars between Florida and Georgia go before the High Court. Wow, it is of utmost importance. I think all we can do is say, mark your calendar, it's coming up.
Yep.
And it won't be decided for some time. Maybe next week we'll be able to discuss
Well, for the viewers,
arguments.
this has been going on for a long, long time.
Years.
We've discussed it. We've had disputes with neighboring states, and just, again, for the viewers, I think that when we came away from the special master, I think all of us have agreed Georgia's case is in great shape. We don't want our water capped. I don't believe that's going to happen. And I predict, looking in the crystal ball, we're going to have a good outcome.
And look, we have conserved water.
And you got to give Governor Deal credit, and our 2 U.S. senators, Senator Isaacson, and even Senator Chambliss worked on this when he was there.
Sure.
And David Perdue has definitely stepped in. So to keep this battle going, to make sure that we are not folding to our neighboring states has been a very, very important point that we need to bring up here.
Right. And the special master just didn't find in favor of Florida's argument.
No, he bought Georgia's argument, all of it, it looked like. All right, so any other week in the 36 years that I've been doing this broadcast, we would be opening with the legislature coming to town.
That's right.
It's our 4th item. How about that? I mean, really, think about it. It's about important as anything gets. I noticed that Speaker David Ralston in the pre-session remarks kind of laid down his markers. He doesn't want a religious freedom bill. He wants an adoption bill. He calls it a clean bill. In other words, free of the religious liberty connotations.
Well, let me just make a quick comment on that. And I think lawmakers, whatever your political stripe is, they're all looking to the U.S. Supreme Court. There's going to be a big decision soon that revolves on religious liberty. I think it's just smart to wait until we see what the Supreme Court decides.
He also doesn't want any fuss made over Confederate memorials. And he wants to stick to
It must be
his
an
knitting.
election year. What do you think?
Well, of course, and that's what it is. But Phil and I had a discussion about this week. I said last week there would be nothing controversial. Phil chided me and said, well, there's always something controversial, right? Well, I think adoption will be.
Oh, yes.
And I think funds for transit systems will be.
Absolutely.
And a reorganization of state boards. What are some other things?
Well, the budget. They have to do a budget, and there's always a tug and pull on, what priorities, and that's what they're there for. They have to figure out the priorities.
And then I think Speaker Ralston deserves a lot of credit, because what he's doing, while it is an election year, he is sort of preemptively saying, okay, listen, we know that there's been a lot of conversations, particularly around the adoption bill, because let's not forget, this was a bill that was swiftly moving through the House. And when it got to the Senate, a senator named Senator Logan introduced a very discriminatory amendment in the Senate committee that basically give the rights to basically discriminate on same-sex couples to not allow them to adopt. And so it would cost the state of Georgia hundreds and hundreds of thousands of federal funding. And so I think what Speaker Rawson is saying, hey, let the House do their job, which they always do, but when it gets to the Senate, let's understand that we need to make sure we got a clean adoption bill.
Gambling on the table this year?
I think gambling will definitely come back. I mean, you know, full disclosure, I worked with MGM in the past.
That's why I asked you.
Yeah, no problem. And I think what you're going to see here is a huge talks with the business community again. You're going to have a very open conversation about, do you talk about the enabling legislation, or do you actually bring back up the constitutional amendment? But I definitely think it's still on the table.
Well, and you need both of those to pass.
But you can do one before the other.
That's right. And they may switch it. You're absolutely right.
They may switch it. So.
And I think what's going to happen, from what my sources say, and keep an eye on Senator Brandon Beach, who in the Senate has been a promoter of this. You know, we call them, and we laugh about it, destination resort, but that's what they are.
Yeah.
And as you remember last year, we had Metro Atlanta and another site. Well, now there's going to be a third site in an effort to bring in more votes. So I think you'll see that. And Dick, you know, one of my pet peeves has been the taxing on the fantasy sports.
Yes.
Keep an eye on
For a guy who
Representative.
doesn't bet on sports, you really
I don't
like
bet.
that issue.
I don't bet, but it's a revenue source. Thank you. And we all agree on that. I don't want my taxes hiked as a fiscal conservative. So keep an eye on Representative Trey Kelly. We've got to regulate fantasy sports, and we've got to tax it. And it passed the House last year. I want to see it pass the Senate.
But back to RIFA, you mentioned that earlier. At a time where we're still in this hot pursuit for Amazon, I mean, I can tell you from my sources,
it's not time to do it.
Yeah, it's not time to do it. Republican leaders, the business community, and Democrats are coming together and saying, hey, let's make sure that we don't bring this back up, because it'll hurt our chances.
All right, we got to get out. You have a priority?
Nope.
No priority? All right. When we come back, one of Atlanta's truly great visionaries died in his 90s, and we'll talk about John Portman in just a minute.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Visit their website at fox5atlanta.com.
And as we sit on this great weekend, and the eyes of the nation on us, Georgia and what's the other team?
We don't need to mention it on this show.
Don't even need to mention Alabama, no,
Roll
because they want our water, right? So the heck with them. There's a lot of reasons to want to win this game. But would any of it be happening if not for John Portman? Think about it. In the 60s and 70s, the architect of downtown was building the pieces that led us to where we are.
That's right.
Starting with the Hyatt Regency Hotel, correct?
That's right.
With its
Actually, he had a model before the Hyatt that was built as a senior citizens high-rise on what is now Joseph Lowry Boulevard at I-20. There is a wonderful atrium and units around the atrium.
Well, he
and that
was
his
known.
first
He was
building.
known for that. That's right. And of course, he melded the world of architecture, as you mentioned, but also development. And of course, his mark, that's the Atlanta skyline, as we all know.
Right.
And but he was known, you know, worldwide. He was quite a pillar of this community, but in the world.
The architectural
in
style
Shanghai.
is so sophisticated and so marvelous to look at. I mean, look at the Marriott Marquis,
Right.
look at the Hyatt Regency and the Embarcadero in San
we
Francisco.
could be Birmingham if we didn't have visionaries like that. We know the story of the airport, but look at downtown. Look at those buildings. Look at the trades, the
That's
Peachtree
right. Peachtree
Center.
Center.
Think of the number of trade shows that go on in Portman buildings in downtown Atlanta
That's
that
right.
bring thousands of business people.
Well, of course,
to this town.
tourism is one of our the top industries in this state, and that certainly gave it the big boost.
But the one thing I would tell you is that he was still a go-to resource for everyone who not only was trying to redevelop downtown, but if you look at Midtown and Buckhead and even Avalon up north, 400, I mean, he was a person who mentored so many new developers in this city, and he's just going to be truly missed.
And he was a great philanthropist.
Yeah, gave hundreds and hundreds of
Well,
thousands
and
of
in the
dollars
early
to a lot
days
causes.
of the coming together of the races,
That's right.
he was one of maybe a dozen key people in that action forum.
That's right.
That met on Saturdays. He never sought the limelight.
No, but he was definitely one of the driving forces behind bringing Atlanta
He
together.
was anything but Donald Trump
Oh, yeah.
Except the hairstyle.
But him and
To end
Ambassador
it on a light note.
him and Ambassador Young had this affection for one another. I mean, you know, even up into some of his last moments, I know Ambassador Young considered him a true confidant. And just you talked about this relationship when Atlanta was at a very tense time with racial divide in our city. John Portman was there fighting with so many leaders.
The Hyatt Regency was the first hotel to desegregate.
That's right. Another reason we're not Birmingham.
Right.
If I may make that
mid-60s,
comparison
that's right.
over and over. Out in Gwinnett County, Republican majority on the commission there. It's Republican in Gwinnett County still. 9% increase in the budget. Phil, what does that say about Gwinnett County?
Gwinnett County has been one of the fastest growing counties in the United States over the last 15 years. That's where we start with. Unfortunately,
Almost
a lot of
all
those,
the money is going for
unfortunately,
police, yeah.
a lot of police. Why? It's been driven by illegal immigration. In fact, Homeland Security says on its website, we've got more illegal aliens here, probably over 300,000 in the state of Arizona. So they have to adjust. The school system has to adjust. As you point out, police have to adjust.
All right, in Cobb County, I can't quite figure out what's going on. It looks like the commissioners, Republicans once again, are lobbying for a tax increase, a property tax increase. Commissioner Mike Boyce, the chairman, is going to go have a series of meetings to explain to people why they should be taxed. Have I got that right?
Yeah, and there's a big hole in their budget. And, you know, let's talk about, wow, the battery that we all love and the new stadium,
Yeah, be
the
careful
Brave
what you
Stadium.
ask for, right?
Well, Alexis, there you go, because under the aegis of Chairman Tim Lee, they didn't really know what they were asking for sometimes. And we've always talked about, I think all of us are in favor of as much transparency as government as there can be, and there wasn't that. And so, yeah, they're having to look at the effect of that.
But Dick, I think the point that you're making is these are two Republican counties that's controlled by Republican commissions. And here we are, we have the city of Atlanta, which we like to sort of characterize as this, you know, African-American black girl magic city. And we also have DeKalb County, who introduced a balanced budget. So I think what you're seeing is that we talk a lot about this demographic shift. And while these counties are growing, they made some bad decisions early on when they didn't have this sprawl. They didn't have all these many people coming to the city. And so I think Democrats deserve a lot of credit for basically in the two most Democratic counties in this metro region for having balanced budgets and knowing how to be sort of proactive in some of the decisions that they were making. But I think ultimately in Gwinnett, this is not the first tax increase you're going to see. I mean, because they're just having such a huge boom in people moving
Well,
there.
it's not the fault of Republicans that there was a surge of illegal immigration, and then you've got in DeKalb County these sanctuary policies that coddle
Who was hiring
illegal immigrants.
illegal immigrants? Who was hiring them? Why were they
Oh,
going there?
I've always been
He's on the
as
board
just
to
as
stop
tough.
that.
I've always been as tough on these greedy employers that break the law. I'm as tough on them as I'm tough on the left wing
thank you.
open borders
But I
crowd.
think the point that we were trying to make, Phil, is that, you know,
Got to get out. Go ahead.
conservative Republicans always have this sort of reputation as being conservative. And here we are where we see that these leaders in these counties, which is changing, you know, I think you just got to get a fair criticism.
Well, you have to adjust it to your population. That's I don't care what your politics are.
All right, we got to get out. When we come back, we will turn our attention to winners and losers. Stay with us.
Time now for the week's winners and losers.
And before we do that, a reminder that you can find us on YouTube, our own channel, The Georgia Gang. And you lit up Facebook last week. Just lit it up, a record for comments. And we appreciate your engagement there. Let's do winners and losers. Phil.
Great. Well, I tell you what, I'm clairvoyant. I'm declaring my winner, the University of Georgia, my alma mater. I've got my Bulldog pin on,
ready.
and so I think Atlanta, as we discussed earlier, is going to be the winner for this game too. I also want to make the city of Smyrna a winner. We talked a few weeks ago about the hands-free driving proposal. They actually are the first city to have implemented that. Their city council did. Derek Norton was the leader in that. You're going to probably see a bill on that, so that could be a winner too.
Darren.
Definitely, Mayor
Welcome
Bottoms.
aboard.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Mayor Bottoms definitely is a winner. Great inaugural speech. Definitely has a clear vision to lead the city. But also want to recognize some other local mayors that were inaugurated. We have Mayor Norcross, Craig Newton, first African American mayor in Norcross. We have a new mayor, Anthony Ford, in Stockbridge, first African American mayor in Henry County, Stockbridge area. We also have Mayor Angeline Butler in Forest Park, who is there. And then also we have a new DA in Rockdale County, African American woman named Alicia Adams Johnson. So I know that we're a show that like to focus not just on Atlanta,
Sure.
but the region. And then my other winner is
Occasionally, we like to focus on whites too.
yeah, well, we get that in. And Phil, you and Phil get that covered. But I also want to make Donald Trump my winner. I'm an avid golfer. I love to play golf when the weather permits. And if I could let the taxpayers pay $43 million for me to play golf, I would definitely do that too.
We got to go. You have no time.
Yeah, but I'm going to take it. Isaac Ferris died this
That's
week,
right.
and he was the patriarch of the King family. He was married to Christine King Ferris, Martin Luther King's brother-in-law, and he was helpful in establishing the King Center.
I have a winner in football code. My winner, Roquan Smith. That's all you need to know. See you next week on the Georgia Gang.
The opinions expressed in this broadcast are those of the panelists appearing in this program.